Good evening, folks. Good evening, folks. My name is Charles Chambers. This is another stream of Let's Talk About It Now. I thank you all for getting on the stream tonight. I will tell you, this is not one of those streams that I can't say I'm super excited about, but as a content creator, my job is to report the news as I see it. So what I will attempt to do tonight is give you my commentary, my critique, and my criticism based on the current events as it relates to our brother, Jordan Neely, who lost his life on a New York subway. And I'll tell you something. This is not something that any of us in the Black community should take lightly, because tomorrow it'll be something else. Next month, next week, within the next hour, it could be something else. But what I want to address tonight, and again, before we get started, as you come into the building, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, support the stream at Cashapp $CG4033. Support the stream, guys, because I will tell you, this kind of content, like many others, the powers that be don't want to hear this kind of content. They don't want to hear this kind of information shared, irregardless of the relevance of the information. So again, support the stream, guys. And again, how to support the stream is on the screen right now, as where you can see it. Again, I thank all of you getting on the stream tonight. Shout out to Abdul. Shout out to Gail for getting on the stream tonight. I appreciate you. Let's get right into it. I won't be long, folks. I won't be long, but I intend to be strong on this subject because I want to touch on a few points that a lot of us seem to simply overlook. We just simply seem to overlook it. When we look at situations, circumstances, and events that take place where we are concerned, in this country in particular, when we are dealt the hand of injustice as it relates to either losing our life, being discriminated against, or otherwise, and you know the list just simply goes on and on and on. But in this particular situation with Jordan Neely, whose life was taken unjustly on a New York subway at the hands of a coward. Yeah, I call him a coward. I know what the media calls him. They call him a Marine veteran. Yeah. But I know the Marines don't teach you that. In fact, what he did on that subway train, had he done that in the military, he would have been court-martialed. And any of you that have been in the military and have served, you know that I'm correct. He would have been court-martialed for taking the life in the manner in which he took Jordan Neely. Unarmed man who posed no real threat. But yet the media wants to make him appear to be a Samaritan. Now, those of you that read the Bible, you know who the Samaritan was. The Good Samaritan. That was the individual that went along the roadside, but he helped those that were in need, those that were in distress, those that needed help. That's what the Good Samaritan did. I would beg to differ that Mr. Daniel Penn fits that description. What he fits the description of, to me, is a coward. He came up behind an unarmed man on a train who was about 30 pounds lighter than he was, unsuspectingly, and put him in a chokehold that he was trained to do in the military, a chokehold that the law enforcement have been prohibited with doing to individuals that they find on the street. Even law enforcement is not allowed to apply the chokehold that he applied to Mr. Neely. Law enforcement is not even allowed to do that. But yet he did that, and he did it for a sustained period of time, for approximately 15 minutes. Now, you know, it doesn't take that long to strangle someone out to the point of potential death. You lose consciousness anywhere between 3 to 6 minutes under certain circumstances, depending on the individual and how much they're fighting and how much they're moving around, could determine how long it takes. But on the average, it takes between 3 to 6 minutes to lose consciousness. Yet he held that sustained chokehold for about 15 minutes. The train had come to a stop, and yet he was still holding that man in a lethal chokehold, irregardless of passengers that were urging him to release him and let him go, because perhaps you could be killing the man. You're going to kill the man. This is what some of the passengers were yelling at Mr. Penny. And what a fitting name for his last name, Penny. I mean, you know what we do with pennies, right? We kick pennies, we throw pennies, we pluck pennies, we leave pennies behind on the counter. Pennies are really not that significant when it comes to the denomination of coinage. We don't care much about pennies. You know? Matter of fact, you got to collect so many of them just for it to even amount to anything. Goes to show you the insignificance of a penny. It's 1 penny at a time. This was 1 penny. Mr. Daniel Penny, who wasn't even worth a penny. Yeah, he was a coward, no doubt. He was a coward. But what I find very interesting is that how they could find him guilty and yet not find the individuals who participated in holding Mr. Jordan Neely to where he could not move to defend himself. He could not move to free himself from what I'm pretty sure in his own mind he knew was certain death. He was not allowed because of 2 maggots who held him down, held his arms. One individual was holding his shoulders down to the floor, I guess to give Mr. Penny a better positioning. And yet these 2 or even 3 individuals were not held responsible for his death. You know, I will tell you, I've said in other streams, justice delayed is justice denied. So if we get justice by getting a conviction with Mr. Penny, then where is the justice for the other 2 or 3 individuals that held him down, which helped to facilitate the death of Mr. Jordan Neely? Now, all of us understand the law that we live under, right? I'm pretty sure we all understand the law that we live under. The law that we live under says that if I commit a crime and there's other individuals that were accomplices in the crime that I committed. For an example, if I went into a store and I robbed the store, and as a result of attempting to rob that store, the store owner pulls out a weapon to defend himself and his store, and I get the jump on that store owner, and as a result, that store owner loses his life. Those that waited for me outside of the store, in the car perhaps, as a getaway vehicle, they are equally as responsible for the death of that store owner as if they did the crime themselves. Oh, I know you know that that is the law. Oh, no doubt. But these other 2 or 3 individuals that helped to hold Jordan Neely down, while the maggot who was heralded as a military hero, every time they talk about this individual, they talk about him as a Marine veteran. My father, he did 2 tours in the Marines. And I will tell you this, they don't teach that kind of character. No, they don't teach that kind of character. That's not what they teach at all. And to be quite honest with you, if I was the Marines, I'd be protesting about them putting your name out there like that. Marines, I'd be protesting about them using him as an example of you and what you teach. This is to the U.S. Marine Corps. They keep putting him out there as a U.S. Marine veteran, as though that means something as it relates to this particular crime. As though him being a Marine veteran gives him somehow a pass for murdering a man on the train in public at the urgency of passengers who were telling him to release him because you could be killing this man. And yet he did not stop. He kept a sustained grip on his neck. He knew what he was doing. Oh, make no mistake about it. And to you bleeding hearts who believe that he knew he didn't know what he was doing, I'm definitely not talking to you. But you know, if you hold a sustained pressure on anyone's neck for 15 minutes, the odds of them losing their life is almost 100%. You know that. Jordan Neely lost his life. Why? Because he was homeless. Why did he lose his life? Because he was hungry. Why did he lose his life? Because he said he was thirsty. Why did he lose his life? Because he said he was in despair. Something that accompanies every individual who finds himself in a place of despair, a place of disadvantage where they find themselves homeless on the street. And I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, we look too low on individuals who find themselves in this circumstance. I can recall a young man that I ran across many, many years ago. I was driving trucks at this time. I remember I was in Manhattan. I was in Lower Manhattan in New York. There was a McDonald's. There was a Dunkin' Donuts that I used to go to on a regular basis to get my coffee. And I can recall going to this Dunkin' Donuts on a regular basis every morning around the same time, about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I would see this young brother sitting up against the wall with his back rested up against the wall of the Dunkin' Donuts every single morning. And I would throw him $1 here and $1 there, $2 here, $5 there, or many times I bought him breakfast. But there was this one particular time that I went there, and it wasn't in the morning, but it was in the afternoon. And I sat down next to this individual. And in my mind, I said, he can't be sitting here for no reason. I wanted to hear his story. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what he would say. But I sat down next to him and I began to ask him, I said, brother, why are you sitting out here like this? Why is it that every morning I see you sitting right here with your back up against this wall, asking for money and nickels and dimes and coffees and breakfast? Why are you doing this, man? Is there not something that you could be doing productively that could help change your situation? I wanted to know. I was about 23 years of age at that time. I never forget the story that he told me. I will never forget it. After he belabored the conversation, beat all around the bush, he finally got to the meat of the conversation, and he came clean and told me the truth about why he was in the condition that he was in. He let me know that he was a 6-figure income earner at some point. He was an attorney, a high-paid attorney in Lower Manhattan. And while he was away out of the country, he got a phone call that his wife and his children were in a car accident and that they were in ICU. As he rushed back to the United States on a jet as fast as he could, he arrived at the hospital only to find that his whole entire family had died within 30 minutes of his arrival. in 30 minutes of his arrival. Now, folks, I want you to think. What state of mind would you be in if you left home that morning and everything was fine, only to find out hours later that your whole world had been shattered and you could do nothing about it? You couldn't stop it. You couldn't slow it down. And more importantly, you couldn't even get back fast enough from wherever location you were to simply say goodbye to your family if that's what you had to say. What state of mind would you be in? I'm glad you asked, because what we're going to get into right now is who was Jordan Neely, the New York subway victim, a young man in real crisis. What was going on in his mind? What was going on in his life that found him on the subway that morning, ranting, yelling erratically up and down the aisle, talking about, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I have nothing else to live for, I don't care if I live or die, I don't care if I go to prison for the rest of my life. These are the things that he was ranting. It doesn't sound like he was trying to do anyone any harm. It looks clearly to me, without some assistance, without someone getting close to that young man, like I got close to that young man against the wall of the Dunkin' Donuts in Manhattan, and simply wanting to hear his story. It seems really clear to me that all he wanted was somebody to listen to him, somebody to see what he was feeling, see his pain, feel his pain, enough to care, to do something for him. But this is a pervasive situation in this country, the richest country on the planet, and yet we find these situations pervasive in every city, in every town, in every state. And yet those that are suffering are made to look as if they are not wanted in the society. And not only that, nobody gives a damn about helping them. Nobody cares about helping those that need help the most. Yet we have a whole lot of opinions about individuals like this. That goes for those that suffer from homelessness, to those that suffer with drug addiction, to those that suffer with alcoholism, and to those that walk the street and sell their bodies. We have an opinion about everybody's condition, yet we have no solutions about anybody's goddamn condition except to give our own useless opinion. Oh, who was Jordan Neely? Who was Jordan Neely, the New York subway victim? A young man in real crisis. Let's get into it. And again, shout out to those that get on the stream tonight. Shout out to those of you that catch the stream after it's live streamed. I am your host, Charles Chambers of Let's Talk About It Now. Shout out to all of my new subscribers. I thank you for your support. Continue supporting this stream. You are appreciated and you are not unnoticed. Let's get into it. The public should focus on the needs of people experiencing homelessness and mental illness to understand the tragic, sudden, and violent death of Jordan Neely on the New York City subway. Pardon me, family, we're having some kind of technical issues. Wow. Hang on with me, folks. Hang on with me, folks. Let me see if we can fix this technical issue. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you, folks. I appreciate you. Yeah, we build it as we fly it, man. We build it as we fly it. Again, I thank you for getting on the stream again tonight. Pardon me for that little glitch that we just had. Let's get right back into it. Jordan Neely, New York subway. Rider, homeless, someone who most don't even pay attention to. In an article of USA Today, attorneys for Neely's family said Neely, 30, began experiencing mental health problems at age 14 when his mother was brutally murdered. Neely's mother was strangled. Now, folks, I want you to listen. I want you to remember what I said earlier in the stream as we began about how we view those. And I want you to look at what puts people in certain situations. We really ought to be careful about how we judge someone based on their circumstance and situation, because you don't know what put them in that situation, what forced them or caused them to fall short of the normal process of their life. This is what we have to take into consideration. There's an old saying that my mother used to say to me, "There but by the grace of God go I." That means, and it took me a long time to understand that statement, but I understand it well today. I understand it so well. There but by the grace of God go I. That means whatever you see is you looking at yourself under the right circumstances. It is you. It is you. You are that homeless one. You are that mentally ill one. You are that prostitute. You are that drug-addicted brother, that drug-addicted sister. You are that criminal that can't stop committing crimes. You are that inmate in prison for all kinds of crimes. You are everything that you see in the world. You are that person. There but by the grace of God go I. I understand that statement so well. So we understand Mr. Neely, Jordan Neely, the young brother, 30 years old, who lost his life. His mother was brutally murdered when he was at the age of 14 years of age. Neely's mother, ironically, was strangled. Wow. His mother was strangled at age 36 by her boyfriend in the apartment where she and her teen son lived. The family's lawyer, Lennon Edwards, told USA Today. When Neely tried to say goodbye to his mother before leaving for school the day of her murder, he didn't know her fate. He only knew that her boyfriend had told him he couldn't enter the bedroom where his mother's body was, Edwards said. When Neely returned home from school that afternoon, he learned his mother's body had been stuffed in a suitcase and dumped in the Bronx. Her murderer was sentenced to 30 years in prison. That's the kind of trauma. That is the kind of trauma that can cause anyone to unravel. Oh, no doubt. This is a family that's extremely burdened. Now in the light of the death of Jordan Neely. Why? Because it seems as though the society wants to brush it under the rug. Why do they want to brush it under the rug? For the same reasons that I started off this stream saying. Most and many don't care about those that are mentally ill. They don't care about those that are homeless. They simply don't care. And when it comes to black people, they certainly don't care. And then for those of you that may say, well, Charles, you're trying to push a race card. I say to you, shut up. Because if you're not black, then you wouldn't understand in the first place. Because I'm going to tell you why. Ever since black folks have been here in the United States, it's been nothing but a race card. From day one up until this point, we have history. You know how you like to say, I have history with this individual and I have history with that individual. What are you saying? You're saying I have history. We have experiences with one another that makes me come to a conclusion about this or that because we have history, right? All right. So don't you begrudge black people for coming to a conclusion when we have seen all too often justice denied or justice delayed, which equals justice denied. Don't you begrudge us with coming to a conclusion. Nah, no doubt. Don't do that. Just watch, listen, and learn. After watching his mother die at the age of 14, or at least coming to the knowledge that his mother had been murdered at the age of 14, then finding out that her body was stuffed into a suitcase and dumped in the Bronx. Her death was also ruled a homicide. The individual that committed that crime was given 30 years to life in prison. Now, Neely's own death has also been ruled a homicide by medical examiners. Lawyers for Marine veteran David Penny, and I will stop right there again. They love to keep calling him a Marine veteran, as if that has any goddamn thing to do with the fact that he murdered a man on the train. Yeah, you know, you really can't make the kind of shit up. You really can't make it up. You really can't make it up. They want to make him a hero for committing a crime. Yes, a crime. A crime. They want to make him a hero in some way by telling you that he's a Marine veteran, as if that has anything to do with what he did. It has nothing to do with what he did. He was not trained in the Marine Corps. For those of you that don't understand the Marine Corps, he was not trained in the Marine Corps to just go around and find victims to murder. No. And then disguise his murder as, I'm being a good Samaritan. No. That's not what the Marine Corps teaches. And that's for those of you that want to try to support and defend this ignorant individual. All right? Yeah. A Marine Corps veteran, David Penny, 24. He said he acted in self-defense, yet there's no evidence to prove that he was ever threatened by Jordan Neely in the first place. Eyewitnesses on the subway train said that he did not appear to be violent at all. He was just ranting loudly about how hungry he was and thirsty he was and how he didn't feel the need to live anymore and that he had no reason to live anymore and that he was just tired. Well, that kind of makes sense under the circumstances. But it's clear that he has a mental issue that he needed to be dealt with. The man needed help, man. He needed help. He needed help. That's all he needed. Not the kind of help that David Penny administered. No, that's not the kind of help he needed. But he certainly needed help. When David Penny, 24, said he acted in self-defense when he put Neely in a chokehold on May the 1st after the well-known Subway performer and Michael Jackson impersonator began acting erratically on the F train. Penny has not been charged. Well, we know now he has been. This is an older article that I'm referring to. We know now he's been charged with second-degree manslaughter. I still think he got a break, to be honest with you. Second-degree manslaughter would indicate you killed someone accidentally. Yeah, that's what manslaughter means, you know. I don't believe it was accidental at all. You don't hold someone in a chokehold for 15 minutes and then it's listed as accidental. You know, I find it very interesting that if a white man kills a black man, they find all the ways in hell to lower the charge. But had this been in reverse, had this been a black man that was strangling or putting a white man in a chokehold on the subway, would he have gotten manslaughter or would he have gotten first-degree murder? Oh, yeah, that's right. Which one do you think he would have gotten? You could type that in the chat box. Which one do you think he would have gotten? Type that in the chat box. What do you think he would have gotten? But see, we can always see how there's a double standard here. No doubt. We can see the double standard. They said when he began acting erratically on the F train. Penny has not been charged, but we know he has. I just stated that. But advocates for Neely say a cycle of violence, mental health problems, and poverty were what led to the tragedy aboard the subway. I beg to differ again. Why? Mental health problems and poverty does not lead to your death. Why make that the reason for his death? See, USA Today, like every other media, like every other white media, mainstream media, they love to spin a narrative that takes away the credibility of the actual victim itself. They love to do this. But we're not in any surprise to this kind of machination because this is what happens on a regular basis. We're used to this. We're used to this. He did not deserve to lose his life because he had mental illness, even if he did. He did not deserve to lose his life because he was homeless, even if he was. He did not deserve to lose his life at all. He deserved help. And I would say that every person on that subway failed him. Oh yeah, every single law-abiding citizen that was on that subway train, they failed him as well. In addition to the two maggots that held him down. And you need to be brought to justice yourself because you are an accomplice. You are an accomplice in the death of Jordan Neely. You 2 or 3 individuals that held him down while David Penny had him in a chokehold that cost him his life. Yeah. Jordan Neely was a survivor of violence. He was a survivor of violence. If we can see him first as a survivor of violence, it gives us a different perspective on what happened in the subway, and it helps us understand the trajectory of his life as it was taken over the past 16 years. It gives us some trajectory about how his life and what path his life has taken over the last 16 years. He grew up in a family of musicians. His father was a musician. His mother, from what I understand, was a well-known singer. So he came up from a family of musicians. He came up from a family of music. So it's no question, it's no surprise as to why he gravitated towards music. But something happened in his life that caused him to fall on hard times, as it does all of us. All of us, no matter what stage we find ourselves in today, we can remember the days, or we can remember the period in our life where we weren't doing so well. All of us can remember this, unless some of you were just simply born with a silver spoon in your mouth. And if that's the case, I'm not talking to you. But I'm talking to those of you that have found yourself in a better place today. You found yourself in a progressive place today, a successful place today. But you remember all too well when it wasn't so successful, when it wasn't so progressive, when you found yourself getting it literally from the mud. You were digging in the mud and getting it from the mud to where the mud stains were on your nails. You were digging and getting it from the mud. I know many of you remember those days. Some of you remember those days. For those of you that can't remember, like I said, you had the silver spoon in your mouth. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to those that understand what it is to get it from the mud. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. This young brother, again, did not deserve to die. And Mr. Daniel Penny, the maggot, who held him in a 15-minute chokehold, which ultimately took his life. Even at the urgency of those on the subway that were telling him to let him go. It's very disturbing. They said a bystander can be heard telling people that Jordan Neely may die if he continue holding him in that position. Daniel Penny and other bystanders who pinned down Jordan Neely during their fatal encounter on Monday were warned by another person on the New York subway that they were going to kill him. So, folks, listen to me. Regardless of what the media says, there are eyewitnesses that said clearly that they were yelling at him over and over and over and over again to release Jordan Neely because he was going to kill him. And what did Neely do? If you watch that video closely, you can see that as he increased the pressure on Jordan Neely's neck, he was breathing hard himself. Because again, it takes a lot of energy to strangle someone, because you have to hold a sustained amount of pressure against the neck area for an extended period of time. You have to do this in order to succeed in killing anyone from strangulation. It doesn't just simply happen. And you have to hold that sustained pressure against the neck until you feel the body go limp. Only two things happened in that situation at that point. Either the person passed out and became unconscious, or their heartbeat stopped. They said during the course of the strangulation that Jordan Neely defecated on himself. You know, and I know, and those of you that understand what happens in the body when the body is losing life, when life is leaving the body, you lose the ability to control your urine, and you lose the ability to control your bowels. They said Jordan Neely defecated on himself while he was in that strangulation or chokehold from Daniel Penny. He began to defecate on himself. What does that tell you? And you can see in the video that when one of the passengers said that he had defecated on himself, you saw Daniel Penny look down at his pants and wipe his pants. Go back and watch the video. Go back and watch the video, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Someone on the train let him know that Jordan Neely had defecated on himself while he remained laying on his left side, unresponsive. And what did Daniel Penny do? He looked down on his own pants and he started wiping his pants. He wiped his right leg. Go back and watch the video and see if you can see what I'm talking about. This was not an accident. This was not self-defense. This was not him being a good Samaritan, looking to protect the public riders of the New York subway. No. I don't care how much the media wants to paint that kind of picture. This was a cold-blooded killer, period, who was trained to kill by the U.S. Marine Corps. Did he act out of what the U.S. Marine Corps teaches? No, not necessarily. But was he trained to apply that chokehold? Yes. I absolutely believe this. He was trained to apply this chokehold. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he held that chokehold and sustained that pressure until Jordan Neely lost his life. This is what happened on that train, folks. This is what happened on that train. And then the New York mayor. Yeah, let's talk about the New York mayor, Mr. Adams. Mayor Adams, the bootlick of New York. We're talking about the bootlicker of New York, who had nothing really to say about Daniel Penny, but came out late after pressure was applied, and then said, Mr. Jordan Neely didn't deserve to die. Little too late. Too little, too late, Mr. Adams. Too little, too late. And you wonder why at Cooney University, when you went to speak to the graduates at Cooney University, how they turned their backs on you. Many of whom were seen flipping the bird at you in reverse. That's light work. That's light work compared to what you deserved. You know, cooning is at an all-time high. Yeah, cooning is at an all-time high. Mr. Adams, you are no surprise. Just like the district attorney, Mr. Bragg, another coon. Yeah, two coons in a pod. Two coons rocking together to your constituents, catering to those that you depend on for your political aspirations going forward. That's right. Two coons in a pod, Mr. Bragg and Mr. Adams. I expected nothing less of neither one of you, to be honest with you. You know, the days of black men standing up for their own cause, it's almost non-existent. Go along to get along, Negroes. It's an infestation now. It's an infestation now. So I'm not surprised, Mr. Adams, and I'm not surprised, Mr. Bragg, and you have nothing to brag about. Nothing to brag about at all. So, what would true justice look like for Mr. Jordan Neely? True justice would be to have that maggot, Mr. Daniel Penny, thrown under the prison. And to be quite honest with you, second-degree manslaughter only brings about 15 years in prison. He needs to get first-degree murder. That was calculated. He knew exactly what he was doing. I won't take it back for anyone. I won't take it back. That was first-degree murder. And I want to see justice had where the other knuckleheads that was holding his body down on the subway, making it and facilitating and making it easier, I should say, for Mr. Daniel Penny to be successful at taking Mr. Neely's life with that chokehold. Oh yeah, the individuals who held his body down should also be held liable. They are accomplices to the legal system. You know the laws that you put in place. If I'm the getaway driver and someone robs a bank, even though I sat outside in the car and I didn't physically rob the bank, because I sat outside in the car, I'm held as an accomplice, and as a result, I have to face charges for the same crime, especially if someone loses their life as a result. So legal system, stop acting like you're dumb. Stop acting like you're stupid. You know what this is. So do black people. This is called the double standard of law. That's exactly what we're looking at. justice for Jordan Neely. True justice would be to see Mr. again, Daniel Penny, incarcerated on first-degree murder, and those that assisted him in holding Jordan Neely down also be prosecuted as an accomplice. And with that being said, I am your host, Charles Chambers. This has been another episode of Let's Talk About It Now. Justice for Jordan Neely. Until next time, folks, we are out.